This story is based on a true incident that took place on the Spanish island of La Palma, where a family embarks on a deep-sea trip. At the same time, a horrific event occurs, causing the calm ocean to erupt like a volcano in an instant and threatening all of humanity. Will this family and humanity survive this catastrophe, or will everything be lost? So let's begin. The story begins with a young woman on vacation when she suddenly realizes that one of her earrings is missing. At first, she thinks it might have accidentally fallen into the sea while taking a photo. Her best friend, standing nearby, immediately jumps into the sea without a second thought to find the lost earring. But in the next moment, a strange sound begins to come from underwater, and the seawater starts to boil. Their glass boat shatters, and along with it, their friend loses her life, killing everyone present. A few days later, a family of 4 arrives on vacation at the same La Palma island. This island is also known as Volcano Island, although the volcano there had not erupted since 1948. Himi and her husband deliberately came here to spend their vacation in hopes of saving their deteriorating marriage. They see this trip as their last chance to repair their relationship. As the family prepares to change for swimming, their eldest daughter, Sarah, finds a pair of earrings lying on the ground. Upon seeing them, the father immediately says that they do not belong to anyone in their family. Sarah pays no attention and simply places them on the table. Little do they know that this vacation is about to become the most dangerous journey of their lives, where they will face a terrifying natural disaster. Meanwhile, in the mountains, Mary from the Geological Survey Department goes there for research with a colleague. As usual, they arrive at a cave, but today they notice something unusual on the cave walls, a cement-like deposit covering the rocks. It is the first time Mary has seen such a thing in her entire career, and she immediately begins collecting samples. Just then, her bearded colleague discovers numerous dead bats lying on the ground. Upon examination, they realize that the carbon dioxide level inside the cave is far higher than normal. What shocks them even more is a massive crack that suddenly appears in the cave's ceiling. Meanwhile, the director of the Geological Department is sitting in his office reading the newspaper. The report states that a speedboat has been discovered in the southeastern sea area of La Palma Island, and all the tourists on board have been found dead. The matter is still under investigation. After reading this news, the director becomes deeply concerned. Shortly afterward, Mary and her colleague arrive at his office and inform him about their discoveries in the cave. Further investigation reveals that the air inside the cave contains dangerously high levels of carbon dioxide and aluminum oxide. Such a phenomenon has never been observed before. Furthermore, the island's rainy season is getting longer, and the amount of rainfall is steadily increasing. The increased water flow is disrupting the balance of the rocks, causing dangerous cracks to form inside the cave. If this situation continues, there is a high possibility of an earthquake or landslide, but the director disagrees. He says that slight mountain tremors are normal. No clear traces of toxic gas have been confirmed yet, and the current situation is not strong enough to declare a major threat. Both researchers feel deeply disappointed after receiving this unnecessary scolding. However, the bearded man remains firm in his suspicion. He takes Mary to a map and reminds her that in 1948, a major volcanic eruption occurred here, creating a crevice several kilometers long. It was so wide that a person could walk inside it. If such an explosion were to happen again, an entire section of the mountain could collapse and fall directly into the sea. If something the size of an entire city were to plunge into the ocean, a devastating tsunami would surely follow. He questions why the director is not warning the public in advance. The truth is that the director made a grave mistake a few years earlier. He once issued a landslide warning that caused massive panic, but nothing actually happened. That incident nearly cost him his job. Since then, he has refused to raise another alarm unless a disaster is absolutely certain. However, Mary and her colleague do not realize that the director is even more frightened than they are. In fact, he is already deeply disturbed. At that very moment, he has gone to the forensic department to review new findings. The initial autopsy report clearly states that all the people who died on the speedboat were killed by exposure to extremely high temperature gas. Carbon dioxide and sulfur dioxide were found in their lungs, which is clear evidence that the situation is far from normal. Meanwhile, at the resort, Nick's family continues to enjoy the sun and sea without any worries. Sarah is sitting quietly by the pool. A girl approaches and invites her to join a game of beach volleyball, but Sarah refuses because she needs to look after her younger brother, who has autism. The girl leaves disappointed. Sarah wants to make new friends, but lacks the confidence to step forward. After coming out of the pool, her father, Sangeet, notices her sadness and encourages her to go and play. He assures her that he will take care of her brother. After hearing this, Sarah finally agrees to join the game. Before she leaves, her father quickly explains a few basic volleyball rules to her. Sarah heads off to play, leaving Nick in charge of their son. While spending time with the child, Nick suddenly notices his wife laughing and talking with a Spanish man. This immediately makes him angry. But the moment he looks back at his son, the child has disappeared. A panicked Nick begins searching for his son, thinking that perhaps the boy has gone to the beach to look for his sister. He runs toward the shore and calls out his name repeatedly. After a short while, he notices a small boy standing on a rock in the distance. When Nick gets closer, he realizes it is his son, staring silently at the ocean. The child has been watching countless turtles gathering in the sea, as if they are preparing to migrate together. together. Meanwhile, Mary completes her investigation. The water sample brought from the cave shows no trace of any unusual minerals. This clearly indicates that seawater has rapidly infiltrated the mountain and reached the cave directly. The crack they discovered is extremely new, no more than 2 weeks old. If this is true, everyone on the island could be in serious danger. With this realization, Mary and her colleague decide to return to the mountain and examine the upper section of the crack themselves. They drive back and reach the site. What they see there is even more terrifying. One end of the crack is now slowly sinking downward. They immediately set up their equipment and begin taking measurements. Their fears are confirmed. The crack is steadily shifting. Although the movement is slow, it is clear that if it continues, a catastrophic disaster is inevitable. Meanwhile, the geological department staff also begin detecting warning signs. Gas levels around the mountain are rising and initial tremors are being felt. The director immediately orders that the National Guard be contacted so that tourists on the mountain can be evacuated if necessary. At that moment, Mary calls him. When the director realizes that they are still on the mountain, he panics and orders them to abandon their equipment and come down immediately. While they are still taking measurements, white smoke suddenly begins pouring out of the crack. Seeing this, the two run for their lives. On their way down, they encounter several people who had been camping on the mountain. Mary realizes this is a clear sign of volcanic activity and begins shouting for everyone to flee. A short time later, Mary regains consciousness in a hospital bed. The director informs her that her colleague is in critical condition and has fallen into a coma due to exposure to toxic gas. This time, the volcano released a massive amount of poisonous gas, but fortunately no lives were lost. However, the director knows this is only the beginning. When toxic gas starts escaping, the next stages are ash, followed by molten lava. If a section of the mountain collapses into the ocean, it could trigger a tsunami. Such a tsunami could endanger millions of lives around the world. Several continents could be affected, and small island nations might be completely overwhelmed by the sea. The cost of evacuation alone could reach billions of dollars. There is an even greater danger. In the panic and chaos, many more lives could be lost. So the director still wants to wait until he has more concrete evidence. But Himi is no longer willing to wait. She clearly tells the director that if action is not taken now, the consequences could be irreversible. Under pressure, the director agrees to accompany her to meet the mayor. However, the mayor's attitude remains unchanged. He refuses to alert the public until he is completely certain. Another false alarm could cost him his position. No matter how much Mary and the director try to persuade him, the mayor decides to wait. Meanwhile, at the resort, Nick and Himi argue once again about their son. Himi accuses Nick of not informing her immediately when their son went missing. Nick angrily responds that Himi had not been paying attention to the children all day. Neither of them is willing to understand the other. At the same time, Sarah's life also begins to fall apart. The girl she befriended just a day earlier now scolds her harshly. The reason is that Sarah accidentally shared a video of her. The video had actually been secretly recorded by a boy, but the anger is directed at Sarah. Heartbroken, Sarah goes to her room and begins to cry. As she sits there, she hears her parents arguing loudly in the next room. She no longer feels like staying there even for a moment. Quietly, she leaves and heads to the airport. From there, she calls her uncle in Norway and asks him to book a return ticket. Her uncle asks why she wants to travel alone, but Sarah refuses to explain. After the call ends, her uncle becomes worried and phones his sister, Himi. But Himi is doing yoga at the time and does not hear the phone ringing. Meanwhile, the geological department receives even more alarming news. Microtremors are occurring continuously across the island, and their center is gradually moving upward. This clearly indicates that the volcano could erupt at any moment. The director immediately orders air traffic control to halt all flights to and from La Palma Island. Volcanic ash can severely damage aircraft engines and cause planes to crash, but the warning comes too late. Suddenly, a small yet powerful explosion echoes from the mountain, leaving everyone stunned. At that exact moment, the flight carrying Sarah is already speeding down the runway. The pilot receives instructions from air traffic control to abort takeoff, but due to the short runway, the aircraft is forced to continue and lift off. Meanwhile, Himi finally notices her brother's missed call and immediately calls him back. When she learns that Sarah has gone to the airport, she panics and rushes to find her husband. Then, through the thick volcanic ash, the roaring sound of an aircraft is heard. In the next moment, a massive explosion shakes the sky. Himi covers her face in fear, not knowing whether her daughter was on that plane or not. Just as the couple prepares to leave for the airport, Himi receives a message from her brother. Her brother, who works at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, has already been informed about the plane crash. Rescue teams are already at work, and all the survivors are being taken to the island's only hospital. When Himi and Nick arrive at the hospital, they search for hours but cannot find Sarah. The staff shows them the flight's passenger list. Those whose names are marked have already been brought to the hospital, while the rest are listed as missing. Sarah's name is on the list, but there is no mark beside it. Seeing this, both of them are completely devastated, exhausted, and heartbroken. heartbroken, they return to the hotel, unsure of what to do next. But when they open the door to their room, they are stunned. Sarah is sitting safely inside. In reality, Sarah was about to board the plane when she received a message from her friend. Her friend sincerely apologized and asked for forgiveness. Sarah decided not to board the flight at the last moment. Later, her friend also realized that this message had unknowingly saved Sarah's life. After this tragedy, their friendship grows even stronger. Meanwhile, the situation at the geological department continues to worsen. Scientists believe the island should be evacuated immediately, but the mayor still refuses to agree. He argues that such an announcement could cause panic and lead to casualties in the chaos. Volcanic ash has appeared before without leading to major destruction, and another false alarm could cost everyone their jobs. When the director realizes that the public is still not being warned, he makes a personal decision. He orders all his employees to leave the island immediately and decides that he will remain behind as the last person on duty. Mary is unhappy with this decision, but she also has responsibility for her younger brother. Soon, she discovers that her brother is drunk and creating a disturbance at a bar. Mary goes there to help him, but instead, the police arrest her for interfering with official work. When her brother regains his senses, he understands his mistake. He rushes to the police station to meet her and promises to hire the best lawyer, but time is running out. The volcano could erupt at any moment. Now the question is how these siblings will escape this island of danger. But this is only the beginning of the catastrophe. People living in the region know that once a volcano starts releasing ash, the next stage is usually a full eruption. If that happens, an entire section of the mountain could collapse into the sea, generating a massive tsunami hundreds of meters high. It could become one of the greatest natural disasters in human history. During the night, white smoke begins to rise from the volcano once again, as if a sleeping monster is about to awaken. At that same time, Nick and his family are still out on the water, completely unaware of the danger. They have no idea that disaster is slowly moving toward them. Suddenly, the phone rings. Hime answers and sees that it is a call from her brother. He explains that the government already knows about the situation, but is keeping the information secret to prevent widespread panic. He has secretly booked a ferry for them that will take them to the nearby island of Tenerife within minutes. From there, they can catch the next flight home. Only 20 minutes remain before the ferry departs, and the chance to escape is slipping away. Hearing her brother's warning, Hime wastes no time and quietly prepares to leave with her husband and 2 children. But Sarah insists that she wants to take her friend Sherry along. She calls her repeatedly, but there is no answer. When Hime says it is already too late and a tsunami could strike at any moment, Sarah is forced to leave with her family. As they step outside, they realize there is not a single taxi on the road. Time is running out. Then Nick gets an idea. He suddenly stops a truck and hurriedly gets his entire family inside. Before the workers can react, Nick drives away with the vehicle. A short while later, the same workers chase them and reach the ferry terminal. For his family's safety, Nick urges Hime and the children to board the ferry immediately. Nick stays behind and the workers surround him and begin beating him. In the end, Nick takes out his wallet and hands it over to them. Only then do they let him go, but by that time it is too late. Nick watches helplessly as the ferry carrying his family slowly moves away. Meanwhile, Sherry is at the beach. She notices several missed calls on her phone and quickly calls Sarah back. Sarah tells her to somehow make her way to Tenerife, or it may soon be impossible to escape. A few minutes later, a violent tremor begins. The director, sitting alone in his office, immediately realizes that the danger has reached its peak. He calls the mayor's office and demands that an emergency evacuation alert be issued at once. Unable to catch the ferry, Nick rushes to a speedboat rental center and tries to hire a boat to Tenerife. But as soon as the emergency alert sounds, the staff refuses to help him. At that moment, a friend he met at the hotel arrives and tells Nick that he has bribed a sailor. They both hurry to the shore where the sailor is already waiting. He has secured the last available spot for Nick. Relieved, they prepare to board the boat. But suddenly, the volcano erupts behind them. Just as the boat is about to depart, a woman comes running while holding a child in her arms. She cries and begs for help, saying her child is very young and must be saved. Nick pauses for a moment, then silently gives up his seat to the woman and her child. Seeing this, his friend is deeply moved, but Nick quietly walks away. At the hospital, the bearded scientist is awakened by the sound of the volcanic eruptions. When he steps outside, he immediately understands the severity of the situation. Yet he does not panic, because he had anticipated this outcome. He changes his clothes and goes straight to the director's office to stand beside him in what may be their final moments. Meanwhile, Nick watches the flames and lava rising from the distant mountain. He has no idea where to go next. Finally, he calls Hime and tells her to take care of the children, saying that he may never return. At the same time, Mary's brother manages to obtain the keys to the police station and frees his sister. On the way out, he also releases another prisoner from a nearby cell. As they leave the station, they encounter Nick. Nick tells them that all the boats are gone, but Mary's brother says he still has a speedboat, which he had hidden while fishing. Hearing this, a glimmer of hope sparks in Nick. The three quickly run to the beach and find the speedboat tucked away in a hidden corner. Just as they are about to start it, a man with a gun appears from behind. The prisoner that Mary's brother had freed earlier now wants to take the boat for himself. Mary's brother tries to reason with him, saying the boat can carry one more person, but the man insists on taking the entire speedboat because his companions are following. During the argument, the man fires a bullet that hits Mary's brother. Mary rushes to him, but within moments he dies. Just then, the other gangsters arrive. Nick quickly grabs Mary's hand and pushes her onto the boat. He has a gun, so the others cannot move. The two manage to start the speedboat and escape the island as the volcano threatens to engulf it. At that moment, Nick receives a message from his brother-in-law on his phone. He explains that there is a safe zone on Tenerife, and reaching it is the only way to survive. Nick immediately grabs Mary's hand and pulls her onto the boat. Mary stands frozen with fear, as if her legs have turned to stone. Nick pulls her aboard just in time, and they turn the boat in the opposite direction, racing away before the tsunami hits. Meanwhile, at the airport on Tenerife, preparations are underway for the last flight. Himi, along with her son and Sarah, has reached the boarding gate. While checking passports, the staff notices that Himi has an extra passport. She explains that her husband was left behind and may arrive shortly. The staff gives them yellow wristbands, which act as boarding passes. Only those wearing this band are allowed to board the plane. But Sarah keeps looking back, worried about her friend Sherry. She sees that Sherry has arrived at the airport but does not have a boarding pass. Sarah makes a bold decision and, just before the plane takes off, takes her father's boarding pass from her bag and gives it to Sherry. She then boards the plane herself. Meanwhile, Himi and her son have already taken their seats, but Sarah has not arrived yet. The plane is ready for takeoff. Himi panics and decides to leave immediately with her son. People try to stop her, but she ignores them. At the same time, the director and the bearded man, both wearing protective suits, have reached the mouth of the volcano. They know leaving the island is now impossible. Both stand fearlessly beside the volcano. The bearded man playfully takes out a year-old bottle of red wine from his pocket. But before they can drink, the volcano, dormant for 78 years, erupts with full force. With a massive explosion, the entire island splits in two. An entire section of the mountain slides straight into the sea, creating waves hundreds of feet high in an instant. Meanwhile, Sarah and Sherry return to the plane. They search desperately for their mother and brother, but the staff immediately tells them to fasten their seatbelts as the plane is about to take off. Unbeknownst to Sarah, her mother and brother are still searching for her. Luckily, Himi receives a message from her brother just in time. He informs them of another safe zone in Tenerife where they can escape the tsunami. Himi immediately runs in that direction. Her son, who has autism but is highly skilled in geography, calculates the safe location in seconds. Some nearby airport staff also follow them. Just then, the tsunami hurtles toward the airport. As the plane begins to land on the runway, the ground explodes. Meanwhile, Nick and Mary race toward the safe zone in their speedboat. Their phone battery dies, but they reach the safe zone at the last moment. When they land on the shore, they see that many people have already gathered there. This was all possible thanks to Nick's brother-in-law. He had consulted experts and identified the safest area. A tsunami spreads in a circular pattern, and two massive waves crash and cancel each other out on the eastern side of Tenerife. That area proves to be the safest. Risking his career, the brother-in-law personally turned on a microphone and informed the media about the safe zone. The alert was also sent to people's phones, saving countless lives. But Nick looks around and finds his wife and children nowhere to be seen. He learns from others that the entire island has been devastated and that the last flight had crashed. Nick is devastated, thinking he might be the only surviving member of his family. Then a familiar voice is heard in the distance. Surprisingly, some people survived the plane crash. Sarah regains consciousness while Sherry remains unconscious. Sarah immediately lays Sherry on the ground and begins CPR. With the help of a flight attendant, Sherry is revived. When they exit the plane, the world around them appears completely devastated. The tsunami has destroyed many parts of the globe. Some small island nations are entirely submerged. Nick and Himi fear they might never see Sarah again, but then a rescue helicopter arrives. Their son is the first to recognize Sarah. Amazingly, despite the massive devastation, the entire family is finally reunited. There is only one person who stands silently at a distance: Mary, who lost her brother in the disaster. She knows that her life will never be the same again. If you enjoyed our efforts, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. See you in the next video. Until then, bye.